My name is Clark Godwin, and I am the Vice President of Application Development here at Rooms to Go. We develop custom applications for the company and manage products that we have integrated with our homegrown ERP system, which at its core is Universe. We have 4 Universe databases, and most of our applications connect to one of those 4 instances. I have multiple teams in my organization, but in a nutshell, we have 8 PIG programmers and 60 other resources who work in Azure, Power BI, or ServiceNow. Everyone on my team uses data that originates from Universe, but most of them know very little about the multi-value databases that they rely on. So I want to start with a brief history of who we are. We are a furniture retailer with stores located throughout the southeastern United States. When the company began over 30 years ago, we were primarily an IBM customer. So naturally, we bought a RIS 6000 system running IBM's proprietary Unix operating system, AIX, and installed Universe on it. The Universe database and its applications supported automation and processes in virtually all aspects of the business, such as operations, point of sale, and customer care. Since then, the company has grown to over 150 showrooms, specializing in regular furniture, or adult furniture as we call it, kids furniture, and patio merchandise. We have 7 major distribution centers with over 10 million square feet of combined warehouse space. And since then, we have upgraded all of our technology in every way, including Universe. This slide is a basic view of our on-prem environment before we moved to the cloud a little over 3 years ago. At that time, we had 2 data centers, one in Tampa and another in Atlanta. Or Sefner is what it says here, but that's Tampa. Tampa was the primary, and we used storage-based replication to keep the data centers in sync. We had already shifted away from the PIC-based UIs by around 2015 and mostly wrote Azure-based applications using .NET Core and the .NET Framework, accessing Universe via UniObjects for .NET. We also developed an entity framework that abstracts away the aspects of the multi-value data model, which allows our team of .NET developers to write web apps that interact with Universe without having any knowledge of PIG programming. The ease at which we are able to modify the Universe database over the years to accommodate new or changing business requirements has made it a perfect fit for us. Some integrations are so seamless that it's impossible for the end user to tell where it comes from, whether it's Universe or somewhere else. The Universe environment continues to be our primary source, even though most of our front-end apps are no longer PIC-based. In 2018, the company decided to move our data centers to the cloud. We started by moving our Microsoft-related assets to Azure and decommissioning all our physical Windows servers. Then we migrated our SQL databases to Azure Storage and converted most of our users to Citrix Cloud. We also started using ServiceNow for workflows and low-code development. Finally, we created dashboards in Power BI for reporting and visualizations of data originating from Universe. We have all these assets in 2 different cloud data centers, or metros, and we interface with many external SaaS solutions that either get data from Universe or update Universe, or both. The last thing we moved was the Universe servers. That was around 2019. But we couldn't put them in Azure because the AIX operating system was not supported there. So we had to put the Universe servers in the IBM cloud instead. It was then that we realized we had a problem. We could no longer use the SAN-based replication we had relied on for years because IBM didn't support it. And that's when we discovered Rocket Replication. It was compatible with our environment, provided all the necessary capabilities to keep our Universe databases in sync. So we moved forward with Rocket Replication and got our servers up and running in the IBM cloud. Now, it wasn't smooth sailing at first. There were problems with the initial implementation. We had to work through a bunch of performance and configuration issues before we could depend on it, but we used Rocket's software professional services to help us configure the system, and thanks to their help, we got it under control. There are a few things we have learned and best practices that we use to manage replication a little bit better, and I'll share a few of those with you now. By default, replication works at the account level. That may be fine for a small system that handles only a few updates, but that implementation didn't work for us. So we created file groups to distribute the load and add writers so that no one group gets too busy. It took some time to figure out the best configuration, but this is probably the most important thing we did to keep our replication environment running smoothly. The previous versions of replication had limited monitoring and alerting, So we wrote a tool that compares records on the publisher and the subscriber and notifies us if a group starts to fall behind. This helps us to be more proactive with fixing the problem before it starts to impact the publishers. Sometimes group locks appear on the subscriber, which can lock or block replication. So if we get a notification, we first check for any locks on the subscriber and release them. Also, we have found that simply stopping and starting the subscriber may be all it takes to get replication going again. And since that does not impact the publisher, at least not immediately, it is safe to do during business hours. It is okay to have non-critical groups fall a few minutes behind, especially if the files in that group are not vital to our business. If we decided to fail over to our data center in Dallas, we would do it gracefully by shutting down Universe on the publisher first, giving plenty of time for replication to finish on the subscriber. And one last thing to mention, which is really only relevant to those who use SAN-based replication for HA purposes. This type of replication works at the block level, and as I said earlier, we used it until we moved to the cloud. But we always knew that it wasn't 100% reliable because files in motion, like our Universe hash files, need to be replicated at the record level to avoid corruption. So Rocket's implementation is the only method we're aware of that will reliably replicate a Universe database while it's in use. Our cloud service has redundancy built in, so we don't really have to think as much about HA. For us, Rocket replication is more for DR purposes. We are looking forward to upgrading to Universe 11.4.1 to get some of the benefits and improvements offered in that release, which should help mitigate some of the replication issues we still encounter, or at least make them easier to manage. Things like improved administration, which has the enhanced UV rep commands and the queue manager for performance, as well as the MVX for monitoring. We do plan to convert our OS from AIX to Linux so that we can move our Universe servers to the Azure cloud. Azure has more tools and it's cheaper than IBM, so it would be a good move for us. But the conversion to Linux will be a big undertaking. If it hadn't been for Rocket replication, we would have had to have already figured out how to do that, basically doing Linux and moving to the Azure cloud all at the same time, which would have been a daunting task. So for us, we're very happy that Rocket replication came to the rescue when we were ready to move to the cloud. And that's it for me.